But before I go into that topic, I wanted to share something with you all I'll share why I'm sharing it in a minute. But someone was, with good intention, making me aware of the shortcomings of a spiritual teacher who is doing really positive things in the world, and also has positively affected my life. I had to take a pause when my assistant and I were having our little chat session, and she was telling me about it. And I really went to spirit on that. And what I will share here this evening is a part of how I responded, and then I'll share why I'm choosing to share this. So this was my response. It is always interesting how the universe can use just about any human vessel to positively affect our planet, even those we may regard in a lesser light. I choose to see him through the eyes of Source, who views him with love and compassion, seeing the light within him and understanding that in physical form, we are all fallible in some way, shape, or form, doing the best we can through the filters of our life experiences thus far. When I see someone falter, I try to remember that if I lived their life and their experiences, I would more than likely make the same mistakes or have the same perspectives. And in those moments, I hope to always be reminded that I am fallible as well. When I share something with others, I trust that each person can tap into their own innate ability to choose whatever resonates. One cannot attract that which is not a vibrational match to the vibration that they're offering. Law of attraction and universal orchestration takes care of this beautifully. Thankfully, all of the experiences we have are valuable, and if we choose, they can all be used to expand our love, compassion, and awareness, no matter what we're witnessing in another person. I seem to have attracted the aspect of him that is a vibrational match to where I am, and for that I'm grateful. If we choose to focus on what is negative or undesirable in another, we continue to attract that aspect of them into our experience, or we continue to attract like-minded experiences. If we choose to focus on love and compassion, we experience more of that. The more years that I live, the more I try to remember that while we are here traversing this beautiful planet, love is all that truly matters. And I got really emotional after I sent that. And Spirit kept taking me back to this part. And I'm getting emotional again. When I see someone falter, I try to remember that if I lived their life and their experiences, I would more than likely make the same mistakes or have the same perspectives. And in those moments, I hope to always be reminded that I am fallible as well. Take a breather. There are a few things that I want to share about this. The first is sometimes when we're inspired to share something with someone else, we suddenly realize it was for us too. And that was certainly true in this case. And for a very long time, several days, I kept going back to that part of what I shared. And I was having a conversation with Spirit, and I said, I know this is for me too. It wasn't only for the person that sent me the message. I know this is for me too. And since it is for me too, I have a request. If ever I'm in a time where I'm feeling judgment toward anyone for any reason, remind me of that part that keeps coming back to me. That if I lived in their shoes and I was seeing the world through the filters of the experiences that they've had so far, I would probably make the same decisions, the same mistakes, say the same thing. The other thing that, and so in that moment I said, and be really strong. I'm asking for spirit to be really strong in my life, letting me know when I've slipped into a place of judgment. And it's so interesting how aware I have become since I made that request. Little moments like I'm watching somebody singing on TV, on YouTube, and I have some critical comment about what they're wearing or their makeup or something. And like right in that moment, I would feel, whew, I'm getting chills. That's spirit saying, yep. um, right in that moment, those words would come back to me. If you lived in their shoes and experienced all of the things that they've experienced in their lives so far, you would make the same choices. You would make the same decisions, whether you're looking at it with a critical eye or whatever, And it's been really strong, that feeling of letting go of this default place we tend to fall into, in judging others. We all make mistakes. We're all fallible. I was going to say we're all flawed, but instantly I felt spirit say, none of you are flawed. All of you are perfect. From a human perspective, we can see the shortcomings of others and see the flaws in others very readily. One of the things that became so clear to me is that when we tend to fall into judgment and criticism toward other people, it's often, not always, but often because that's how we are toward ourselves. So we go into self-judgment very quickly. We go into self-criticism very quickly. And since we haven't practiced enough self-love and feeling self-acceptance, there's less of that to give to other people when they show up in our experience flawed, or what we perceive to be flaws, because from a non-physical perspective, none of us are flawed. We're all just moving through life through the filters of the experiences we've had so far. So that's one thing I wanted to share. The other thing that I wanted to share is with regard to that. When we think about remote healing and Reiki, we know what that is, right? It's sending energy to another person with good intentions. And we're seeing them healed, we're seeing them whole, we have little practices that sort of helps us send them that positive energy, and we trust that the energy that we're sending them is going to bring about healing in their lives. But we so often forget that we're doing Reiki when we're practicing judgment too. We're sending the person the energy of judgment. We're sending the person the energy of disappointment. We're sending the person the energy of whatever that isn't positive. And the thoughts that we carry about the person is the energy that we're sending them. And if we can only come back to the place of, if I lived life through the filters of the experiences that person have had so far, you don't know how they were raised. You don't know what's causing them to act in the way that they're acting. You just don't know, even with our children, we don't know what experiences they've had. So you can say, I know my child, I raised them. They grew up in the same house that I did, but they went to school. They had experiences with other people. I was in the car with my older son, he's 28, and he was driving the car and he took a hairpin turn. And he's like, I always have to be careful in these turns. They always make me nervous, because in high school, I was in my friend's car and she took a hairpin turn and went off the road and totaled the car. He's 28. I never heard that story. I had no idea. Maybe he was hiding it from me because I was a very strict militant parent back then. And when you're a strict militant parent, your kids hide a lot from you. I never even knew. Here he is, 28 years old, and it's affecting his life in the way, not like a big effect on his life, but he's being overly cautious on this hairpin turn because of that life experience he had that I wasn't even aware of. So sometimes we can be judgmental toward our children, toward our significant others, toward other people out in the world that we have interacted with and we deem them flawed. We deem their decisions less than perfect. We deem them less than perfect. We are holding them in some kind of light that is less than perfect. And whenever we do that, we are not seeing the person through the eyes of source. And I know I am speaking as much to Allison as I'm sharing this with you. And if we can only stop and see the person through the eyes of source, we will have a different thought. Now, some of you may be thinking, well, what if they're doing things that are justified? You can't just like, see them through the eyes of source and ignore all the wrongdoings that they're doing, all that. I honestly don't think we have to think about that a whole lot for a couple of reasons. One, the only things that can come into our experience are the things that we are a vibrational match to, and sometimes the things that we can bring positive energy to. So I think the first action whenever we see the flaws in another person is see them through the eyes of source first. And when we do, we find that place of love. And from that place of love, you can take action. You can become an activist, you can speak out on the issue, you can do whatever. But find that place of love first, because what we often do is we find the place of self-judgment first. We find the place of judgment first, and we take action from the place of judgment. We say things from the place of judgment. We talk about them from the place of judgment. And if ever we are in the vibration of judgment, we are definitely not in the embodiment of the perspective of source. The other thing is, when we see someone as flawed after they've done something, you don't know if they have recognized that they have done something that was not a good choice, and they're already wrestling with that, and spirit is already dealing with them. You don't know that, So in the moment that you are having this judgment about a person, or you're having this reaction to some negative thing you perceive the person to have done, they may be in their quiet space going, that was not a good choice, and I'm going to do better. But you forever hold them in a negative light. You forever see them in the negative light that you experienced them in, even while they are attempting to make better choices in future. Even when they're attempting to do better, so that always comes into the back of my mind as well. We don't know if the person has already expanded their awareness beyond that point in which we saw them flawed, And finally, as it relates to this group, what I wanted to share was, there may be times when someone is speaking and they are asking a question where the answer is obvious to you. And you can very easily go into a space of judgment, like, how does she not know that she's been on this spiritual path for years? How is she in this place of challenge, or, whatever? We can very quickly go into that place of judgment, thinking we have the answer for that person. But let the person move through their experience in the way that they were meant to. You don't know why they're having that experience. You have not walked in their shoes. You don't know how they were raised. You don't know why this is a challenge for them. Also, someone may come to the microphone feeling invincible and just so strong in their conviction of who they truly are in one event. And then another event, they're not feeling so confident, and they're feeling a little bit not as sure-footed, and they're experiencing doubt, and they're asking for support and guidance with the doubt that they're experiencing. And you don't know what caused that, and we can go into judgment and say, well, didn't she say she manifested all this stuff the last time? Like, why would she doubt that now, after all the things that she's experienced? And you just don't know what that person is experiencing. And again, I go back to, if I lived life through the filters of all the experiences that they have had so far, I may ask the same questions. I may feel the same degree of doubt, and I want this space to be a space where you can show up however the fuck you are. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be super spiritual, you can show up with all of your perceived flaws. And hopefully we can all create the space where we see them through the eyes of Source. We see them through our divine eyes, and we don't see the flaws. We see that it's just another human being moving through life experiences, doing the best they can through the filters of the experiences that they've had so far. Everyone is doing the best they can through the filters of the experiences they've had so far. And if we can only remember that, boy, what a more loving, more gracious, more compassionate world we would have. And I would also say that you may see me show up flawed here. Just because I'm sitting behind a microphone and you're seeing me on a screen does not make me any less fallible than you are. And even though I may share with great compassion the things that I know are working for me, and I feel compelled to share them, and I'm sharing them with great enthusiasm, it doesn't mean that I am that way 100% of the time. If I were in my highest vibration 100% of the time, I wouldn't be in physical form. We came in physical form to do life, to stumble, to falter, to, error, to make errors and correct them and course correct as we go along. And that's just how we do life, and I may say something to someone that to your ears may sound judgy, trust that spirit will bring that back to me and I will, have a second thought about it once the event is over, hopefully I don't ever do that to anyone here, but I'm fallible, and everyone is equally fallible and everyone is doing the best they can through the filters of their life experiences so far. So my encouragement to you as I close this segment is, I don't care who the person is, a lover, a friend, a teacher, an influencer. I don't care who they are. They're doing the best they can through the filters of the experiences they have had so far. Release the judgment. We all have opinions about how somebody could do something better. We all have those opinions. But is that the perspective of Source? Even when we are flat on our faces, doing what we perceive to be horrible, what is the perspective of Source then? There's only one perspective Source has, and that's compassion, love, and wow, it's so interesting what you experience in physical form. And we're here for you. If you ever feel the freedom to reach out and ask for help, we're here for you. All of the divine beings, like every single person on this planet has divine beings around them. I don't care how horrible they look to our eyes. Every single person has divine beings around them. The perspective of those divine beings around each of those individuals is nothing but love, nothing but compassion, nothing but acceptance for who they are as a divine being, because the physical form that they're in and the roles that they're playing that may antagonize us is not who they are. And we'll get to that in the next part of our event tonight. It's not who they are. And so spirit sees them for who they are. So again, if anyone in your life experience feels like they're worthy of judgment, pause and connect with your higher self and see if you still feel judgment. Because if you do, connect with your higher self again. Because whenever we come from that place, we are not connected to the perspective of Source. There are people in my life experience who I feel could have made a better decision. They're doing this the wrong way. They're saying this the wrong way. They've set this thing up the wrong way or whatever. But I also have to take a deep breath. They are where they are. They're doing the best they can through the filters of their life experiences so far. I don't know what their life experiences are. Who am I to judge? And spirit is not judging them for damn sure there is no judgment from source, infinite intelligence, toward the person that you feel is worthy of judgment. So let's give each other that space, right? And let's just make this space a judgment-free zone where whenever anyone speaks and share their story, we go to our higher selves to see them. We go to our higher selves to see them. And when we choose to see them from our divine perspective, from the perspective of infinite intelligence, we are now capable of sending them the right energy. We don't even have to think, let me send them love, let me send them support, the energy of support. Just by defaulting to, I'm going to see them through the perspective of source. What does that look like? The minute you do that, you open up that portal of love. And as you open up that portal of love, you're already sending them Reiki. You're already sending them energy that expands our world, not contracts our world. What's the point of doing Reiki negatively, So that's all I wanted to share in the first part of this. I'm just going to read your comments, and then I'm going to go into the second part of our event today. Siafa says, Kendrick Lamar has a line about encounters with the police. I feel you just want to kill all of my innocence while ignoring my purpose to persevere as a better person. I think that is an effect of judgment, the effect judgment can have. Yeah, very true, very true. Soul says, yes, I've been learning to step away from judgment, even to myself, to stop and decide, is this judgment needed? Yeah, and it never is needed. There's a powerful statement that we never need to forgive anyone that we haven't deemed less than. So the only time we feel like forgiveness is needed is when we have condemned someone. Like, Spirit never needs to forgive us. No condemnation was ever offered, and forgiveness is fine. You can move through the experience of forgiveness, and it's a good thing, but it's coming from having condemned the person first, Rachel is saying, I was just rereading Neil Donald Walsh's book for children about our soul's journeys on contracts. So in tune with what you're saying. We are all here having this human experience that we all signed up for. Yes. Boy, this past week was definitely huge expansion for me in what you just said, indeed. Yeah, very true. And so ironic that you mentioned Neil Donald Walsh, because after this experience with this, with all of this, I started rereading Conversations with God, book 4. I've never read any other Conversations with God books, but book 4 is called Awakening the Species. And it is heavily focused on becoming a highly evolved being. I highly recommend it. There's like Neil was asking God, so what are the characteristics of a highly evolved being? And in that book, they literally went through all of the characteristics of highly evolved beings. And there's no place that we need to get to. We are where we are, and we're perfect as we are. But that was so inspirational. And as I was reading the characteristics of a highly evolved being, I was like, whoa, yeah, we got some evolution ahead, Dolores is saying, I've experienced conflict in my family when I don't go along with the judgment about another family member. And that's true in the whole world, Whenever a group of people come together and going, yes, did you see what she did? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And she did blah, 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 blah. What does that person want in that moment? Agreement, agreement. But perhaps offer, maybe they're doing the best they can through the filters of the life experiences they've had so far. And again, I'm not perfect. I'm getting reminders of that because I asked for it. And I would invite you all to do the same thing. Have a conversation with Spirit and say, you know what? I would love to become a more highly evolved being. And I would love for judgment to be a far less a part of my human experience. So my request to you, spirit beings that are here to support me in this life journey, is to let me know whenever I'm in judgment and remind me to move back to that place of love, move back to that place of compassion, move back to that place of knowing that they're doing the best they can through the filters of their life experiences so far. And start with yourself. Whenever you move into judgment about yourself because of a mistake, a choice, something you said, a decision, take a deep breath. First, I want to begin with love for myself, recognizing that I am doing the best I can through the filters of the life experiences I have lived and experienced so far. Spirit, help me to find self-love in this moment, because I'm feeling a lot of judgment for myself right now. Start there. And once you start to experience more self-love and less self-judgment, you more readily want to offer that to people because you know how good it feels, See, I was saying I've had that experience. Normally, I don't resonate with forgiveness because I don't feel like anyone has ever done anything to me. But when I went through a period where I was in a lot of judgment toward history, and I used forgiveness to neutralize it. Yeah, forgiveness can be an awesome tool if you've felt a lot of condemnation toward anyone, All right, so that completes part 1. Part 2 of our event I'll do now.
And as we close, I just wanted to remind you to always take only that which resonates, because your higher self, your inner being, your soul, your spirit knows what is relevant for your unique personal journey at this point in time. And it's always wise to check in with your heart to see what genuinely resonates and move forward with only that. And know that you are always free to fully trust your inner guidance above any external guidance you may receive. See you soon.